review, and then how you would prepare for that, and then how you would understand that not only have the process of recording the responses, but understand actually what those responses mean, and then what action plan you could pull together to make a difference to your setting and for your young people. This is kind of a summary of the Careers Impact Internal Leadership Review. So if you need kind of a snapshot sentence that you may be putting to your senior leadership team, unless you're already on it yourselves, but if something you want to use, it's described as a standardized continuous improvement and quality assurance of careers. So the idea of that quality assurance is really, really key, so that what you're doing is actually focusing on the right areas and making sure that rather than quantity and lots of stuff going on, that actually it's more important that you've got that quality and it's hitting the right parts that your school wants to be developing and enhancing for your young people. So the careers, just to set the scene a little bit, really. So you might hear various language around this model, and you might hear careers impact system, you might hear careers maturity model. There's lots of different lingo that's going around. So the whole kind of setting, the whole kind of project, if you like, is the careers impact system maturity model. And this diagram that's been created, that looks a little bit like a solar system, demonstrates what that maturity model looks like, and the different parts that are within it. And so the sections that we'll be looking at are this bit here. So this circle here, which is the internal leadership review, that is part of that overall careers impact system. And there's other things that are part of that impact system, like the careers impact peer-to-peer reviews you might have heard of, you might not have heard of. That it doesn't matter either way. But the bit that actually, as a careers leader on the ground, it's that careers impact internal leadership review that is something that hopefully can make a huge difference to your strategic thinking in your setting. So probably as a summary, the 5 biggest benefits are engaging your leaders. So making sure that they are on board with kind of the status of your careers education currently, and which areas of it that you have strengths, celebrating success, like where you're doing really well, where you're having a big impact, but also then looking at where those priorities are that you really need to focus as a team, that can not only help your young people, but also help develop and improve, the goals that perhaps are on your school development plan. And then the idea is that you're sustaining quality, and that you'll be able to see that year on year. So if there are staff changes, and I understand that some of you are quite new in role, so you've probably come in and there might be varying levels of what's been left for you. Maybe some of you have had a handover, some of you haven't had a handover, some have been left spreadsheets, some haven't. So this process will enable it all to be recorded in Compass Plus, so that you can then make sure that when you move on, that the person coming in after you can still sustain that quality and be really aware of what's been happening in the past and what they need to do going forwards. And then actually, embedding, like making sure that you're embedding that best practice, and this leadership review will help you determine what best practice looks like really, really clearly, without you trying to guess or having to, reach out and send lots of emails to various different people to get a good feel. In simple kind of PDF view, this is what it looks like. It will be a bit like a spreadsheet with different sections. And I'm going to talk you through those sections in a bit more detail. But the idea is that you do actually start with a printed copy from a PDF of it, that you would go through reading the different areas and determining where you think you sit. So it's in that top line, you can see like the first box, if you're going from left to right, there is a named careers leader. So, that would literally be, the first step on the ladder is that you've got someone in place. And then when you go to the next box, there's a little bit more detail. So, there's someone in place, and they're actually, becoming, having the right training for a career leader to support them with their role, and that the structure there is there to support them with their responsibilities. So there's more than just having a named person. And it kind of grows so that the final box at the end is the one where you're all singing, all dancing, everybody's involved, the SLT are on board with it, they're supporting it. It's not only verbally supported, but it's in written documents. So you can kind of see that scale there. If there wasn't a career leader in place, then obviously you don't want to tick box 1. So when you actually feed this information into Compass Plus, which we will go through in this session, how to do that, there is a box that basically says we're not doing any of them. But just for the sake of saving room on a PDF, we don't have that column on there that says we're not doing any of them. But you can put that into the system when it's time to kind of input it. So that's what it looks like. I will show you, I'm going to do a demo, and I will show you where you can find that and how you can print it off, so that it's nice and clear. So just to kind of get your minds boggling a little bit, there's more numbers to consider. So with Gatsby benchmarks, we know that there's 8, but with the Careers Impact System, there are 6 themes. And the reason that there's not 8 themes is that actually the 8 benchmarks fit really nicely and really clearly into 6 themes. And you can see, for example, if you look at theme 5, it's pulling together encounters with employers and experience of the workplace into the same theme. So there's a bit of duplication there. And you can see as well that some of the other areas like benchmark 1, that's going across theme 1 and theme 2. And then theme 2 is obviously focusing on needs along with the benchmark 1 categories that do relate to some of those areas addressing needs. Okay, so just be aware that those 6 themes are the way that when you do your leadership review, you're going through those 6 themed areas. The idea behind this is, the highlighting of theme 1 and 2 is that if you think of that as like your keystone, without those in place, your structure of careers in your school is likely to fall down. And that's because those themes really are about that strategy, that vision, that planning, your priorities, but they're also about, really making sure that you're hitting the needs of the people in your setting. So those you'll see later when I show you in the demo, that there's a way that it will highlight to you once you've input your decisions of where you are in the leadership review. It will highlight to you which priorities are key for you to start with, and it will highlight them from theme 1 and 2 if they're not already kind of fully achieved. So just be aware that that is the reason why they're highlighted, is because without those, you probably wouldn't want to go starting with something else if you didn't actually know what your vision and your strategy and your support network was like, and that was fully supporting you. I've talked about this already a little bit when we had the view of the PDF, but the language of the columns, and I will make sure that this, that Ellen has got a copy of this so she can send it out to you afterwards, so you can refer back. But this is just to help, and you might want to use this with the people that you're doing the review with, just to describe what those columns are really representing. The first one, that kind of standalone, something's in place, gradually moving up until that level 4, which, as it describes there, is that golden thread. Everybody is on board with what's happening and part of that solution. This is a suggestion of the way to move through the internal leadership review, and that the convening at the beginning is so important. Who are going to be the people that you want to be part of that decision making. There's different sections and different themes, as we've discussed. So you might decide, for example, that when you're going through a particular theme, you definitely want a particular person involved in that discussion with you. You might want to invite them to all of it. Maybe maybe you think that that will take too long or too much of their time, but that you might decide that you want them at key points. So for example, bringing the SENCO in at key points, bringing your governor in at key points, bringing your curriculum teachers, maybe you've got champions out in the different curriculum areas, getting them involved. Perhaps there's someone that actually supports you in your careers team. You might have the career leader role, but you might also have a careers coordinator or a careers administrator or work experience administrator. There can be a whole variety of ways that we form our teams in our settings. And you might decide that actually to get buy-in, that you want to involve them in that decision making, in that thought process, so that they're on board with it and know what's happening, and you all feel kind of empowered with the decisions that you're making from doing that review. So convening and finding the right people is really, really important. Then obviously you're going to be doing the agreement and making sure that you're deciding where on that scale you sit. It can be quite an interesting conversation to have with different members of staff, because different people can have different views of what's going on. You might learn something new about what's going on that you didn't know was happening in a particular area, or you might be able to use it as a lever to say, well, I don't think we're in box 4 because actually you tell me this verbally, but I'm not seeing it written down in the key teaching and learning documents of the school. So you can use it then to point out the areas where perhaps you've been fighting for more support from your leadership team, for example, and or from your governor, to make sure that they become aware that there is another level that you could move into to make your setting outstanding in that area. Then there's the process of recording, and that recording is it's very quick and easy, and I will do a demo where you're just putting what you've decided in your team into Compass Plus. And then there's the acting section, and that's where Compass Plus, once it's got your results, can really help with where to begin, how to prioritize, and that's where you can use your enterprise coordinator, for example, to support you as well with ways that you can make those decisions that and kind of ratings into actually actions that can move you into the next level. So that convene section that we've just kind of talked about is where to start, like to think about who is involved and who you want to be part of it. And then there's a slide here that again goes into a little bit more detail, and you'll get this afterwards about what does it involve. And like I say, thinking about those themes and thinking about who the right people are to be in each of those sections. I personally, I did it myself first because I wanted to have been able to read it. And there is quite a lot of text on there, although you start to get the feel for how the scales work. So, you can kind of, it gets quicker as you go through. So I think, you might be the kind of person that wants to go through it and work out where you think you are, and then you're ready to have that conversation with someone else when you bring them along into your team. Or you might decide you haven't got time for that. You're just going to do it, there and then at the time. So it's just doing it the way that works well for you. So there's different approaches. So one is the way that I've kind of just described, doing that yourself and then bringing people in at the right place. You might decide that you want to take it to an SLT meeting, and it's actually, you set aside an hour where you all sit together and look at it, and you have a copy each and you discuss it and you highlight and you kind of debate and agree. Others, there's other more lengthy processes where you might do it with your immediate colleague or your link to SLT, and then you might scan in perhaps where you've highlighted and coloured which ones you think are yours, and then you can then email that across to your governor for their feedback, email it across to your SENCO, and then get their feedback that way. Or you might decide it's better to meet as a group and have that discussion. So lots of different ways that you could do it, and then thinking about your setting, what time do you have for it, where could you fit it in, where maybe you are already meeting with those people, and how can you chunk it so that maybe you're making sure that their time is really useful and that you're not making them sit through bits that perhaps aren't so relevant. So the recording allows you to simply pop where you think you are and the rating, and then it will bring up a graphic. You can use that graphic then to, you could show a copy of the graphic. You could email that out to people so that they know kind of where you are within the review. So it just means that for people that are able to log into Compass Plus, they can see that graphic. For a career leader maybe taking a position after you, they can go and see previous year's graphics to see whether you're increasing or whether there's been an issue and it's been decreasing. So yeah, so that's recorded. And then there's just some tips on here that some I've already mentioned of things that you could do. And I would say, you know, the third one down, that's celebrating and sharing areas for success. You know, that's huge, and it's something that I think as career leaders, you know, we don't do enough. Having that impact out there, you know, kind of presenting to your community, whether it be on social media or in an internal newsletter, but you know, just celebrating those areas that you're doing really well at. And yeah, this gives you a means to identify where they are, and also the text around it to describe, you know, what it is that you've done really well. So that's really key. And then making sure that when you've decided your priorities, that they're not just your priorities, they're brought in by your senior leadership team, by your governor, you know, everybody is aware of them. And actually they're built into not only your career strategic development plan, but actually, you know, where possible, the school development plan. Hopefully your priorities are aligning with the school development plan. And there might be reference in your school development plan that part of it is to achieve the career development plan, you know, so just making sure that it's right up there and being recognised and supported top down. Okay. So I'm going to go on to the demo now. I'm going to use my other screen, so I might need to turn slightly, just so you're aware that that's what I'm looking at. So we're going to go and have a look. If you've got Compass Plus yourself, then please do have it up as well, so that you can follow along at the same time if that's kind of the way you like to learn. So I've logged in, and this is my dashboard. And then hopefully you're quite familiar with this. You've got your Compass evaluation results at the top. And then you've got your kind of the national statistics and things like that going along at the bottom. You can see all your destinations. So that's the page that you will come into when you log into Compass Plus. Hopefully that's really familiar. So when you click on evaluations, you may have seen over, you know, the last few months, this second one appear here. So hopefully you're really familiar with the Compass evaluation. That's the one you do 3 times a year against the Gatsby benchmark. So instead, this is the internal leadership review. And the aim is that you would do this annually. So just the once a year, you know, still continuing with your Compass evaluation 3 times a year, but this one would be once a year. I personally would really recommend that you do that right at the beginning of the year, or maybe you've got some teacher development days, TD days, you know, where you can have some planning time and you've got time for that at the beginning of the academic year, or you might decide that you want to conclude at the end of an academic year and have that there's some time at the end of the academic year where you're meeting with people to reflect on how the year has gone. You might decide to do it so that you're ready for the new September. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. Obviously we're about to go into term 2, so you know it's not right at the beginning of the year, but I think if it's the first time you've done it, you know, that's not a problem at all. It's better to do it than to wait until the following September, so that you can then begin from kind of term 2 onwards with a really clear picture of what those priorities are. You may have already set your priorities this term, so it would still be really good to do this so you can reflect and have a look, and hopefully it will conclude that you've chosen the right areas to focus on. If you see something in those keystone themes that you think actually are really, really important, you might then decide to add an additional priority in to get that sorted, or change one of the priorities that you've already committed to from term 1. Okay, so down here, when you click on it, you can see here's some responses. You know, here's some previous years worth of internal leadership reviews that have been completed. And then there's one here that is in process. So you don't have to complete the whole thing in one go. You can do it in stages. So if you met with your SENCO, for example, and you discussed all the needs section, the theme 2, you could then put those results in, save it, and then come back to add in later on the next set of results that you've got. So you can do that. Across here, just to highlight, so when you look at these links, they do open up some key information. So you can see here the Careers Impact System Essential Guidance. So this will show you what the themes are. It would also enable you to have information about, who should take part. So some of the things that we've gone through in this session so far. So just bits of information, and there's a recording of a webinar there as well. So that's information. And then going back to the second one, this here is access to the PDF. So this is the one that you would want to print out and take to your meeting. This isn't in Word format for a particular reason, and the reason is that because there has been a lot of collaboration around, it's not just been created overnight by one person, a huge development group discussing it with all sorts of professionals from different areas have come together to make these as clear and as accurate, really, to represent the settings in schools, as much as possible. So the text is not wanted to be changed because obviously it's a specific category. So that's why it's in PDF format rather than in a format that you could edit. It does mean that if you are doing it with a team, you would need to print it off and then use highlighter pens or some kind of marking way to decide which box you're in, rather than being able to do that. Obviously, like you could in a Word table, like by highlighting it. But you could, there's different methods that you might want to use, and you could then maybe scan that in if you wanted an electronic copy of the version that's highlighted. If you wanted to email it out. So as you scroll down, you can see the different themes with the highlight by the different colours. So a big document, but like I say, try not, like when I first downloaded it, it felt a bit daunting, all these different areas and all this amount to read, but actually you kind of get in the groove of it as you go through, and you'll start to get a real feel for what the text becomes quite similar as to what I'm trying to say. So when you get to the box 4, you realise that it's very similar to box 1, but just with everything kind of added in that you would possibly want in terms of SLT support, whole school approach, that golden thread, going right down to the simplest version in the box 1. So then this is where, once you've had all these meetings, and that's the main bulk of the work is done outside of Compass Plus initially. So when you've had those meetings, you're then recording. So here you would record who was part of the decision. So you might decide that you involve these people, and then you also perhaps you've got a careers advisor you want to involve and a careers coordinator as part of your team. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Having everybody. And then other departments, and obviously you can edit that, and if more people become part of that discussion, then you can add them in. And then you then begin with theme 1, and these boxes, so this was box 1, this was box 2, 3, 4, and then this is the one I was explaining that isn't on the document, simply because it would just take up space and it's already a kind of a packed page of A4. So if you weren't doing any of it, you would just tick the last box, and then you save and continue. And you literally go through ticking the boxes. And if you've done the work up front, although it says it takes 30 minutes, I'm pretty sure that you could probably do that a lot quicker than 30 minutes if you've got the PDF in front of you and you're just literally ticking the boxes to say which it is. So when you've completed that, I'm going to show you an example down here. So you will look like this line from July. So you can view the responses, and it will highlight here the Keystone themes. So you've got Keystone theme 1, Keystone theme 2, and where you put your responses. And when you hover it will give you a description of the box that you ticked. So you can just have a quick check of what that meant and which one you went for. You can also up here, you can start kind of filtering. So which are my areas of strength? So you can celebrate these 4 areas, which is nice. You can download that view. So that chart will come out in a download. So you can ping it off to your SLT and say, just want to highlight, we're doing really well in these areas. This is what we all agreed as a team. This is something we should celebrate. You can also look at your priority action areas. And then again, because these are keystone, these are ones that you would want to choose to say, right, let's try and get these up to at least response 3. Maybe you have, you've got a governor in place, but it's very ad hoc, and actually you would like to make sure that your relationship with them is stronger and more regular, and it's something then that they can really help you with your program and help you grow your program and get maybe support and buy-in from SLT if that's an area that perhaps you're finding difficult. Learner perception, that's something that in this particular example is low, but it's obviously a key part of a Gatsby benchmark, and also so important anyway, irrelevant whether it's on a list or not to tick. It's actually so important to get that viewpoint of your young people. So you might decide that actually your priority is that you're going to do the future skills questionnaire with them, and really get an understanding of what the young people are feeling about their careers education and their knowledge to prepare them for the world of work. Your enterprise advisor, you might have one, but again, you just feel that you can engage with them more to support you. And quite a lot of these keystone areas, they're about people and getting responses. And so the more you can get them involved and widen your team, then hopefully that will help you with your workload as well, and your efficiency and effectiveness in perhaps the different roles that you might be juggling in the school setting. Over here, you can then layer. So you can say, okay, in the previous review, like the year before, what happened? And here you can actually see that over the last year, that engagement with an enterprise advisor has increased. So that's really positive. And then if you went right back to the previous years, you can see, a lot has actually improved since 2 years prior. And when you download these, it will show the PDF that has that overlay on it. So if you wanted to send the PDF with a view of that comparison, then you can do that. I will click on that, but I'm just not going to do it at the moment because sometimes it takes a while on my connection to download, but we'll do that before I move back to the PowerPoint. So yeah, so that's kind of a great place for you to start and to use that visual aid to help you decide which priorities you're going to pick. Probably recommend the classic 3 priorities rather than overloading yourself with trying to do all of them and then feeling a bit overwhelmed. Down here, you can then view the actual responses in more detail. So the actual ones that were picked. And you can have a look at that in more detail. If I scroll across, bear with me a second. So my screen is showing a bit large, but you can kind of see of all the different areas, which ones you selected. So if you wanted to go back and remind yourself, if you think one of them is a bit lower than you thought, you can review it. You can review it on there. And then that will be for the keystone themes. So when you click on view responses, that will show the key themes, but underneath the recommendations, you can see it for everything. So you can see you've got for theme 1, theme 2, theme 3. So if we have a look at theme 3, you can see there's a better view personally, I think, down here. So you can see which one is chosen. And then there's some tips there. So if you're really unsure on where to start, you do have some suggestions for Keystone, the Keystone areas, theme 1 and theme 2. A lot of them are quite similar because they're about your strategy and your vision. It might be that actually you're new in post and you could really benefit from career leader training. So there's links here that will take you to suggestions of the different career leader training that's out there and what you might like to do. There's also a career leader induction course that you could do through the CEC. So different suggestions. that hopefully you'll find useful. But the one that connects here with parents, for example, it takes you to the parental engagement module. That's a training module through the CC, and then a Talking Futures toolkit. So lots of different areas, and you might decide that although you're going for those keystone priorities first, that you do have another area that you'd like to focus on as well. And then you can obviously decide based on where you feel your biggest area of need is. So when you're looking through them, you could decide, that actually their response 3, you'll be looking for a response 2 or 1, like this one. So engagement with personal guidance. You might decide actually that's something else that you're going to focus on alongside your keystone areas. Okay. So the whole purpose of it really is to help you really think about your strategy, really think about your priorities, get everybody on board. So you can obviously, up here, this is your user management. So you can decide who is going to have editor rights, who's going to have viewer rights, who can have admin rights. We would always recommend that you have at least 2 people that are admin in case you get yourself locked out, then someone else can obviously get in and reset that for you. So you can let people that you feel you want to be on board with that decision making have access to Compass Plus, so they can go in and review that themselves, or you can be sending it out via the PDFs. Okay. Right, I'm going to download so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to pick the priority action areas and overlay from 2 years prior, just so it's got that big contrast. And then when you download, that will come up as a document. I knew that was risky. So I'll let that download for a moment, and then at the end we can go back to that. But meanwhile, bear with me a second. Okay. In the PowerPoint, what you will see is that we have put slides in here so that the things that I've just talked through on the demo, if you're not sure or can't remember where I went, or you didn't have Compass Plus open in front of you, and you can then refer back to this document and have a look at those areas of where you click, what the plan is of how to record it, how you resume the recording. There's also on the area where you've got a completed report, there's the ability to share directly from there too. So you can do that. You can also copy them, you can delete them, it's kind of obvious by the buttons of what's available there. This is the insight summary, so the one that we looked at to help you do your review. And then the all responses, hopefully on your screen. My screen's quite small. Hopefully you'll have that better view when it comes up looking more like this. So it's quite an easy snapshot to see, what your paper copy of the PDF looked like once it's input into Compass Plus. Just the reminder about the recommendations, and then comparing against previous results that we did. So then here, is just again that if you want a reminder again of that process of convening, agreeing. So did you do that? So now it's going on to record, and then the main really bit is that acting. What are you going to do with the information? Which of those resources are you going to use to help you? Which help center articles in Compass Plus hopefully can help you as well. So just to highlight, before then we can go to some questions, but before we do that, just to highlight the areas that you can get more support and resources. So there is the Compass Help Centre, and on your Compass Plus screen at the bottom left, there's a black box that says Help Centre. So if you click in there, it will take you to lots and lots of different areas of support. I can show that in a moment. There's also the CEC website. It's got lots of support and resources. Obviously, use your enterprise coordinators and in your hub support, and then there's a resource directory. For any of you that are new to the role, or you haven't completed a career leader training, you know, there is fully funded training available through the CEC that can really help boost your provision, but by helping you really write your strategy and your vision and focus in on those priorities. As part of those programs, you know, completing that internal leadership review will be, you know, a main part of helping you set that vision going forwards. Usually you get £1,000 as well bursary for completing one of those courses, so you can use that then to aid your provision. And then we referred to them earlier, you know, the parents module, there's also a governors module, there's a teachers module. Like, these are made, I've done a lot of these courses and sent them on to people within my setting, and they're always received really well. They're quite short, they're quite snappy, but they get to the point. But brilliant, you know, if you're trying to engage a particular person into your team, really, really great training that you can then just provide them with to say, you know, welcome to the role, here's an overview, but also you might find this module really, really useful. Okay, part of the, and we'll you know, hopefully Eleanor will send this out as well. Part of the sessions that we run is that we love to gain your feedback. Obviously, these are written and designed for you to help you with your work. So please do provide any feedback on there. You know, that can be constructive or positive or helpful, you know, whatever you like, but we'd really appreciate that if you can do that from today's session. And then before, I'm just going to see if the report has loaded. No, it hasn't. I do wonder if it's because I'm in a demo account, but hopefully you'll be able to do that. And it literally is just a snapshot of this very clear diagram that you can then have in a PDF format. The help centre's over here. So when you click on the help centre, you can then find lots of, you know, here's the resource directory that we've talked about, Skills Builder Hub, if you decide one of your priority areas is actually to focus in on skills, that you want to introduce the skills framework to help, you know, with your young people, there's access there. And then the different webinars that have been recorded, they're always in there for other areas of Compass Plus, as well as this area. And then the training courses and opportunities, and the career leader training I mentioned is down here. Plus, if you just type in what you're looking for, the articles will pop up with suggestions. Okay. So I think that was a very speedy review of the internal leadership review. I hope you feel excited about it. From a personal point of view, it made an unbelievably massive difference in my setting on getting SLT on board, helping us move into that fourth box in a lot of areas. And just having those conversations and making other people in your school aware, you know, how important careers is and the impact it can have on the whole school and your community. It's a really, really good starting point. So I would recommend it to anybody to begin there to help you with your strategy. Okay, Eleanor, do you want to let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover? Or
yeah, so I just had one question. So I know that you can, obviously you've spoken about Compass Plus and you've shown a demo in Compass Plus, but you can access all of this through Compass. They call it Compass Classic now, don't they? Because
quite a few of you on Compass rather than Compass Plus.
I think there's definitely one person who I don't think's upgraded yet. I found I'll put it in the chat, but I can send it in an email about how to access the internal leadership review on Compass as well as Compass Plus. It's very similar, to be honest, but there's some screenshots on there so you can see where it is within Compass. But
yeah, it's great. It's available in both, isn't it? That's brilliant. And is that because some of your schools are unable to upload to Compass, upgrade to Compass Plus?
I think it's more just like there's been changes of people and it just is something that hasn't been done yet, basically.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to upgrade, you know, there's some things like the Future Skills Questionnaire is available in Compass Plus, which enables you then to really get down into the detail of what your young people are thinking. So, you know, that would be a key area. So if you want support with that upgrade, then please do just ask our team. We'll be absolutely willing to help you with that process and make it as seamless as possible.
Yeah. Has anyone got any questions? Means you've done a good job if there's no questions, Kat.
Hopefully you all feel quite excited about it. You know, it definitely sparks the conversations that are important to be having, to really kind of bring that careers education into your school as a golden thread. And yeah, because it's all written out, it's not in the past as career leaders, we kind of had to use Gatsby benchmarks and then get our head around like what the different levels of good would look like. Whereas this, it's just really clear, really written out for you in the different areas. So I think that puts you on a really good starting point.
But if you don't have any questions now, if anything comes to you later, obviously a few of us are here already, but speak to your enterprise coordinator, or yeah, Kath's doing some future sessions for us as well. Maria, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I might have missed this. Do we just do it once a year, Kath?
That's right. Yeah. So it's kind of whenever you do your strategy for your new academic year. So whether you're going to do that like at the end of the year, kind of reflecting on the whole year that's just gone by, and you're going to now redo it, ready where we're going to start. But it also, you want to do it in a good time so that you can feed it into the school development plan, because there could be some key areas there that actually you can then add in to the school development plan. So you want to just make sure your timing is well timed for the big strategic decisions that are taking place. And that's why I think it's so important to get your governor involved as well. We quite often we don't utilize our governors enough, but actually they can have a huge impact on the decisions that are being made for the school. So yeah, just that once a year, and then you can reflect back then. It's great to show the impact that you've made yearly.
Thank you.
Yeah, so welcome.
That's it, Kath.
Super.
I mean, we can hang on a bit, so if anyone does have any questions or wants to ask anything, then hang on. Otherwise, yeah, I'll send an email with some resources about all of this, so you've got them kind of to hand. But please do use us as well. We're all here to help you. So yeah, just ask us anything. And yeah, we can come in and give you a hand with it as well.
Brilliant. I hope everyone finishes school well and has a lovely half term. Well deserved.